Now let us discuss the important poets of the Elizabethan age. The most important poets of the era are Edmund, Spenser and Sir Philip Sidney. While Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe and Ben Jonson are known more for their plays, they also wrote poetry during this time period. Let us first discuss Edmund Spenser. Edmund Spenser was a famous Elizabethan poet and a sonneteer. He used to write sonnets. He is famous for his poems The Faerie Queene, an epic poem, and Fantasy Allegory, written to celebrate the rule of Queen Elizabeth I. Spenser used a new verse form created by him called as the Spenserian stanza, which has a rhyming scheme of AB, AB, BC, BC, C. But the first major work of Edmund Spenser is The Shepherd's Calendar, written in 1579. The work is majorly based on the poetic style of the classical epic poet Virgil. The poem is broken down into series of 12 eclogues representing each month. Colin Clout is the shepherd who is the speaker of the poem. The most important eclogue out of the 12 eclogues in this mammoth poem is the April eclogue. It is believed that the April eclogue is written with an aim of honoring and praising Queen Elizabeth. Spenser calls Elizabeth of fair Eliza, queen of shepherd all, and exalts her royal power, her imperial and private virtues, her chastity in particular. Moving forward, the second important poem by Spenser is Epithalamion, written in 1595, which was written for Elizabeth Boyle, Spenser's new bride. Epithalamion from Greek word means to the bridal chamber, and the poems of celebrating the marriage. Amoreti is another poem which is a sonnet cycle written by Edmund Spenser. The cycle describes his courtship and eventual marriage to Elizabeth Boyle, Spenser's love interest. Amoreti has total 89 sonnets in it. Some of the famous sonnets by Spenser are One day I wrote her name upon the strand, To die in dust but you shall live by fame, etc. The structure of his sonnets is AB, AB, BC, BC, CD, CD, EE in 14 lines written in iambic pentameter, exploring themes of love, beauty and morality. Colin Clout's Come Home Again is a poem written in 1595. It is a pastoral poem by Spenser which was published in 1595. It was dedicated to his friend Sir Walter Raleigh. Then we have Astrophel, which is a pastoral elegy upon the death of the most noble and virtuous knight, Sir Philip Sidney. So it is a kind of elegy. It is Spenser's tribute to the memory of Sir Philip Sidney, who had died in 1586. Prothalamion was again a poem written by Spenser in 1596, and it celebrates the engagements of Elizabeth and Catherine Somerset, the daughters of Earl of Somerset. Then we have Mother Hubbard's Tale, which is a part of Spenser's collection of complaints. Now moving forward to Sir Philip Sidney. Sidney was an English poet, a courtier and a soldier. He is best remembered for his sonnet sequence Astrophel and Stella. It has 108 sonnets and 11 songs in addition. Astro means star and Stella means lover. So Astrophel is the star lover and Stella is his star. Sidney was in love with a lady named Penelope Devereux, who was Stella to Sidney in his poems. He also wrote Defense of Poesy, just like the university wit Robert Greene, defending poetry from the attack of Stephen Gosson's school of abuse. Sidney also wrote a pastoral romance called Arcadia, a pastoral romance in 5 books or 5 acts. Moving forward, let us discuss the poems by William Shakespeare. Often called as the Bard of Avon, Shakespeare was born in Avon, United Kingdoms, and Shakespeare initially started as an actor on stage and later started writing plays. But he also was popular for his sonnets. He wrote 154 sonnets and a long narrative poem called A Lover's Complaint, which appeared in the same volume as his sonnets, and it was published in 1609 by Thomas Thorpe. Venus and Adonis in 1593 and The Rape of Lucrece in 1594 are 2 long narrative poems also written by Shakespeare, which were dedicated to his patron, the Earl of Southampton. Out of 154 sonnets written by Shakespeare, 126 are dedicated to a young man, and the last 26 sonnets are addressed to an older woman called as the Dark Lady. Some of the famous sonnets by Shakespeare are sonnet number 18, which is called as Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day? Sonnet 116, Let Me Not to the Marriage of True Mind. Sonnet 104, To be fair friend you never can be old. Sonnet 130, My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. And sonnet number 24, When my love swears that she is made of truth, etc. These were some of the important sonnets by Shakespeare. Moving forward, let's discuss the poems written by Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe also wrote many poems besides writing plays. Some of his famous poems are: first is Hero and Leander, written in 1593. It is a narrative poem telling the story of the Greek mythological figure Hero and Leander. Second was his Elegies, written in 1593, a collection of elegies exploring themes of love, desire, and mortality. The third poem was The Passionate Shepherd to His Love, which is written in 1593. It is a famous lyrical poem inviting a beloved to join him in a pastoral idyll. Moving forward, let us discuss the poetry by Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson was a renowned English playwright, poet, and literary critic of the 17th century. Here are some of his notable poems. The first one is To Celia, also known as Drink to Me Only with Thine Eyes, which is an alternative title to this poem. It is a romantic poem exploring love and devotion. The second poem by him is On My First Son, a heartfelt elegy for his deceased son exploring themes of grief, love, and mortality. The third is Inviting a Friend to Supper, which is a poem highlighting the joys of friendship and the pleasures of sharing a meal together. The fourth one is To the Memory of My Beloved, the author, Mr. William Shakespeare. It is a tribute to Shakespeare, praising his literary genius. The fifth one is A Hymn to Diana, which is an ode to the goddess of the hunt, exploring themes of nature and solitude. Then we have poets like Michael Drayton, who was an English poet, playwright, and historian. Here are some of his notable poems. The first one is Polyolbion, which is a typographical poem describing England's geography and its history. The second poem by him is The Shepherd's Garland, which was written in 1593, and it is a collection of pastoral poems exploring love and nature, just like Spenser's poem. Third is Endymion and Phoebe, which is a narrative poem retelling the myth of Endymion and Phoebe. The fourth one is The Baron's Wars. It is written in 1603 and it is a historical poem chronicling the wars of the Roses. The fifth one is The Ocean of Cynthia, which is a poem addressing Queen Elizabeth I. And then his sonnet collection, that is called as the Ideas Mirror, it became to be very famous and it was written in 1594. Ideas Mirror is a collection of sonnets exploring love and beauty. Out of all these, the famous poem associated with Drayton is the Ideas Mirror, which you must remember. The next poet from the Elizabethan age is Thomas Sackville. Sackville was the first Earl of Dorset and he was an English poet, playwright, and a statesman. The only poem associated with him is The Mirror for Magistrates. Now, let us also discuss some of the prose writers of the Elizabethan period. Among the prose writers, first comes the essayist of the Elizabethan period. Now, let's see who were the major essayists of the Elizabethan period. The major essayists are Francis Bacon. Second is Richard Hooker. Third is Walter Raleigh, and fourth is Richard Hakluyt. Then we have writers like Samuel Purchas and John Fox and John Knox. So these are some of the prose writers from the Elizabethan era. Out of these 7 prose writers, Francis Bacon was most popularly known to have written The Advancement of Learning in the year 1605. And then he wrote New Atlantis, an essay in 1627. Then we come to Walter Raleigh, Richard Hakluyt, and Samuel Purchas, who were majorly explorers or travelers who helped the Queen expand her empire beyond England toward Americas and the East by exploring the world and letting the people of England know more about what is beyond England. Writers like John Fox and John Knox were majorly theologians, reformers, and religious thinkers who promoted Protestantism and Puritanism in England and Scotland. They worked for the social change in England. So that was all about the Elizabethan age. In the next video, we will know about the Jacobean division of the Elizabethan age or Jacobean era, which started from 1603 with the accession of James I to the throne of England and continued till his death in 1625. So that is going to be the topic of study in our next section, that is the Jacobean era.